Hi, my name is Bill Barnitz. I flew jets for 35 years. Started flying in pilot training in '55, and my first jet was a T-33 and out in pilot training. And then just to go through the jets, I went from the T-33 to the F-86, and that was up in Burlington, Vermont. And then from the F-86 I went to the F-89 in Goose Bay, Labrador, and then continued with the 89 down to James Conley, and from there over to Williams Air Force Base in the T-37 and the T-38 instructing, and from there to the F-4 at George. Flew F-4s in Vietnam, out of Da Nang, the 389th. From there back to back to Davis-Monthan, and from there over to the Air Guard. When I joined the Air Guard, I went into the 102. From there I transitioned into the Ace F-100, and then after the F-100 I transitioned into the A-7, and then finished up, my last fighter was the F-16, flying with the Guard. So long career, flew all those, I don't know, 8 or 10 different jets, and 7,600 hours of jet time. So the two flying stories of interest that I'll relay to you. The first one was in Vietnam when I was flying F-4s out of Da Nang and downtown Hanoi with a wingman, and the MiGs were not going to let us drop in behind them. Boots Blissé had come over and taken over the wing and had us strapped guns centerline, so they found out we were carrying guns and they wouldn't let us get behind them anymore. So up and down Thud Ridge and trying to roll in behind a couple of MiG-17s, and they'd let you get into the 6 o'clock area, but then they'd just tighten it up and you'd get spit out the other side. So you yo-yo off and try to drop in behind them again. There was no way. And so we finally gave up and we're headed back up Thud Ridge. And about that time, you knew they were looking at you, but you had the jamming pod on. And off the left wing was a whoosh like this, and off of my wingman's right wing was a whoosh like that. And a couple of SAMs, but they didn't explode on us. So turned and got the hell out of Dodge and went home. So that was the closest I got to getting shot down. The next story I'll share with you was I just sitting here at the convention, and my backseater from this experience shows up. So Bill Berkeley, he's a flight surgeon, and I was scheduled that day to go out and play aggressor with a student who was in training in the F-100 there in Tucson, and Jim Fiorelli was in the back seat as his IP and had the student in the front seat, and we're strapped and ready to go. And here comes Bill Berkeley out the front door of the ops building. He said, "Hey, I get in your back seat." Okay, well, come on. So the crew chief had to unstrap the back seat, and we got him in and got him buckled down. And 20 minutes later, he wished he hadn't been there. So we took off and got out to the west of Tucson and going down just south of the Kitt Peak Observatory there. And all of a sudden, I'm getting this hot oil smell. And I'm looking at the goddamn oil gauge, and it's going like this. And I told Phil, I said, "Hey Phil," I says, "I got an oil problem. I'll roll things level." He said, "Well, just a minute, I'll look underneath, see whether I see any oil or anything coming out." And about that time, it was a pop, and the engine quit. Just started unwinding, and oh jeez, I started a left turn back to the north, and went into the air start procedure, and it was not working. I said, "Berkeley, are you ready to get out of this thing?" And he said, "Yeah, just let me know when." And we were passing over the valley there just south and east of the Kitt Peak Observatory. And I said, "Well, this is a good place as any." He said, "I'm gone." And he pulled a handle and he was gone. And I waited about 15, 20 seconds to get a little separation. And I got in position and I popped and went out. And the airplane, I got into the chute and did my 4-line cut so I could steer and watch, and looking around. I could see the airplane just flying out, and I watched it hit. It hit and rolled, just tumbled out into the desert. And about that time, I had to pay attention where I was going. I had a wash here and steered away from that. Well, that Amy had a big swallow cactus, and I steered away from that. Got on the ground. The only thing I got out of the landing was a little bit of a cherry on my elbow, and got the survival kit out, turned the radio on. Theo was sitting overhead. I said, well, you might as well just get a fix on me and go home, and because it's going to be an hour before they can get a chopper out of Davis-Monthan. And he said, no. Says there's a chopper coming up the wash right now. He was doing auto gyros at Ryan and heard all this. He's on the way. And I stopped and listened. I could hear the whop, whop, whop. And here he came. I wasn't on the ground 5 minutes. And so I threw everything back in the life preserver, in the life raft. And chopper landed. We shoved everything on board and went over and picked up Bill Berkeley and picked us up. We went back DM to the hospital, and that's the end of that story.